to have a process of getting a secret ballot that must ultimately give us an opportunity to remove the useless sitting president of the ANC.
Honorable members, order. I've noted what you've just said, and I don't allow anyone to make a point of order. You will withdraw that later. Honorable members, in order for the House to consider a member's motion, it should first order. Order, honorable member. Okay, all right. Order. Shivambu, honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. Order, honorable members. Honorable Shivambu. Honorable Shivambu. Honorable Shivambu. No, honorable members. Honorable Shivambu. Honorable members from the TA, will you please take your seats? Please take your seats. Sergeant at Arms, will you please sort out the seating arrangement? Honorable members, I thought we are honorable. Not only are we honorable, no, honorable members, you're not going to do that. I am saying we have a long session here, and all of, no, comrades, honorable members, please. No, honorable members, no. All I am requesting is mutual respect amongst ourselves. Yes, somebody had occupied a seat, and that matter could have been easily resolved by the Sergeant at Arms. I have since requested the Sergeant at Arms to sort out that problem, please. And we will shortly proceed. To the next item.
On a point of order, Speaker. Speaker.
The motion.
Speaker, on a point of order.
Honorable member.
On a point of order, Speaker.
I can't see you.
I had risen a point of order.
Okay.
I did not conclude and you did not rule. So it baffles me that now you are moving on, whereas I did not conclude. It shows that you are not fair in this entire process. And this is what I'm raising to you now, that you lack fairness in the entire process.
Honorable member, Honorable Zungula, I think you are very quick to judge the issue.
I'm not judging, Speaker. I'm saying that according to the rules, when I'm speaking, you need to let me finish, and after I finish, you rule. You did not do that.
Finish then.
So
and also, I think, honorable members, and I want to request the whips to look into this, or the rules committee. I think it would be proper that when a member, I know that our microphones are very short, and maybe it's very difficult. I can't, when a person says point of order, I can hardly see you actually. So I'm not meaning to disrespect you, but I do want to make an appeal to the Rules Committee that you reconsider the position of people speaking.
Speaker. And I don't want the House to say I decline to move the motion. It is the rules of parliament that prohibit that this sitting continue because the matter of a secret ballot, it is still before the courts. The court on Monday ruled that it is not urgent that the case could be heard on Monday and a judgment could be delivered by today. However, that matter, it is still before the courts. Therefore, we cannot proceed with the motion and the method of voting, it is still under judicial review. Secondly, we cannot withdraw a motion simply because you could not convene the programming committee and ask to postpone. The programming committee members are here now. On Monday, when we wrote to you, you could have immediately convened the programming committee and asked that it needs to hear the views of the members of the committee in order to postpone. You did not do that. The members are here now. They could also postpone the matter. So I want to make it clear to you, Speaker. Number one, we are not proceeding. Number two, we are not withdrawing up until this matter gets to be finalized by the court. Thank you.
I thank you, Honorable Zungul. Honorable Zungul, this matter is not sub judice. The court actually did not say they are postponing the matter. They said clearly because you went to the court 2 days before the motion was passed, therefore it points to the fact that there is no urgency in the matter. When they say the matter, there is no urgency and do not rule on the matter, what it means is that the matter has fallen off the court roll. And I thought some of you
No,
who
Speaker.
understand.
No,
I'm not a
no,
legal
no,
person.
no, no.
Papo, I do understand how you feel about it, but I'm saying for now, give me an opportunity to chair the session as speaker, as I have ruled. Please be patient with one another and let's stop being judgmental. Just bear with me. For now, I am trying to manage a very difficult and complex situation. And I'm referring to all of you, honorable members.
Honorable Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, honorable, where is that? Is that a point of order?
Madam Speaker, it is, but nothing to do with the issue that's going on at hand. Just to let you know that there are members who cannot get onto the platform. So there are numerous members who aren't on the platform that are in the waiting room. So if you could please ask IT just to fix that, because we're missing members who should be participating. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, honorable member. Will be tabled.
Honorable Speaker.
Point of order. Don't just, honorable speaker, point of order, then I recognize
Point of
you.
order, Honorable Speaker.
Who is that and where is that person, honorable member?
I'm on virtual platform, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, you are granted the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I beg to differ with the legal team, because when it is said that the case doesn't deserve urgency, which means the case is on, but the urgent part of it is not necessary. So we are saying as ATM, the judgment is saying the court didn't grant the urgency part of it. It will follow the normal processes, which are not urgent, not it is taken off the roll. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mahau. Now, Honorable Zakute, followed by Honorable Janki.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on a point of procedure. I think, Honorable Speaker, you received an advice from the Parliamentary Legal Services. So if there is anyone who do not agree with it, the person must take this matter back to the court. You have made your ruling. Thank you very much. Can we proceed with the business of this house? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zakute. At this point, honorable members, I will allow Honorable Gyanki to speak, after which I will motion is not before the House. So, Honorable Gyanki.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I've already been covered comprehensively by Honorable Dlakude. The point I was rising on was on the point of procedure because you were in the middle of your ruling. You were in the middle of your ruling. Can I be protected, Honorable
Point
Speaker?
of order, please.
Can I be
Point of
protected?
order. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable members. Honorable member. Honorable Sangwini. Honorable Mandashe. Honorable members, I'm not going to have this right at the beginning of a motion, right at the beginning of a session. Honorable Mantwe, wait. Honorable Mkalipi, honorable members, Mantwe, Mautwe, I'm sorry, but Honorable Mautwe, will you please exercise discipline? Honorable Mente, Honorable Mente, Honorable Mandashe, honorable members, what's happening? Honorable members, what is happening? Honorable members, we have two motions before us, and I am ruling on the first motion. I don't understand. And honorable members, honestly, I will not tolerate what is happening. In terms of the rules, I will request the Sergeant at Arms, if it repeats itself, that I will give you a warning, I will call you your name, and I will allow you to recuse yourself from the session. Yes, honorable members, that is exactly what is going to happen right here in this session. Thank you. Okay, honorable members, will you please put on your masks? Honorable Mazzoni, will you please lower your hand? Honorable members, I said earlier on, we have been advised by the legal services that this matter at this point is not a sub judice. Allow them to make a statement each. I now invite the Honorable Majodina from the ANC, Chief Whip.
Mandibulele uwe somlomo. Le meko yenzeka apha yoba kubekho emotion ize ibe ngudinga sithebeni ibe ngungqika ngqika nongena mntu wawo.
Order, order. order.
Order, yes,
Order,
point,
Chief Whip.
point of
A
order.
point of order.
Yes, I recognize you. Honorable member.
Akhange ibe ngungqikangqikane. Inomntu wayo le nto.
That's not.
Akhange ibe ngungqikangqikane, but we are trying to table our position. Point of order, Chief Whip. Ayingongqikangqikane, khange uqalise.
You will make that point when your turn comes. It is not a point of order, Sisi, please. Switch off your mute. You continue. And you have 1 minute.
ANC.
Right, alizunguliqele. Right.
Honorable Makhau. I'll throw you out of the system. You are doing this for the second time now, please. Honorable member from the DA, Honorable Mazoni.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, firstly, I refer to Rule 89 of our Rules of Parliament, which we all know are the matters of sub judice, which say that no member may reflect upon the merits of any matter on which a judicial decision in the court of law is pending. And then I would like to refer to a response which I gave last night to the leader of the ATM when contacted about this particular motion. And if you allow me, I will read verbatim what my response was.
Member from the Honorable Chief Whip of the Honorable Shabambo. Honorable Shibambo. Order. Serious matters here. We have two motions here before us. And we are likely to adjourn this session at midnight. Thank you very much, Honorable Shibambo.
No, thank you, Speaker. The issue of whether a matter is before a court of law is not subject to an opinion of the legal office of Parliament. Issue which the people who have subjected it to judicial review are saying is the case. And legitimately, the ATM is saying that we can't proceed fairly with a motion of no confidence if we're not going to be granted an opportunity to use a secret ballot, because we know as a matter of fact that once the secret ballot comes, we're going to split the ANC vote into half. And then vote out your incumbent president. We did that before. We've got the capacity to do it. We did it before. Don't not,
You agree,
it's not an
Shibambu?
opinion issue.
Thank you.
It's a fact that the issue is
Hayi,
before the
suka,
courts,
Shibambu, you
that
agree
is a
me?
judicial review.
Honorable
We are going to
Shivambu,
then remove.
thank you.
It won't happen, Floyd. It won't happen.
Please.
Thank you,
No
Honorable
secret
Shivambu.
ballot, Floyd.
Your time is up. Honorable Singh.
It won't
Thank you.
happen. Go to the
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, firstly, there is a clear distinction between ongoing litigation and a matter before the court. When a matter is before the court, it becomes sub. Committee, which will sit tomorrow so that they can take the matter forward from there on whether the order should remain on the order paper or be expunged completely, because if it remains on the order
Body's gone off to court. Can't be like that. We have to proceed with our business. The fact of the matter is, secondly, Honourable Speaker, there was an urgent application before the court. It was struck down. Currently, there's nothing in front of the court, nothing at all. Even if sub judice still existed, it would still allow us to proceed. But sub judice is not relevant because currently there's nothing in front of the court. The proceedings this afternoon started off with the Honourable Member taking a point. The proceedings started off with the Honourable Member taking a point of order. You have entertained the point of order. I would suggest that the way forward would now be to ask the member to move his motion. If he does not move his motion, it falls off the order paper and we proceed.
I thank you, Honorable Member, the ACDP. Honorable Swart.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the ACDP is ready to continue with the debate today as everybody else is.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order having been raised.
Again, there are members in the House who are completely flagrantly violating the issue of the mask. It's a problem.
Honorable members, will you please wear your masks? Keep your masks on. Keep your masks on, not unless you are on the floor.
And in our experience, the sub judice rule is often abused to stop Parliament from doing its very necessary oversight work. So we appreciate there may be different legal sub judice should again be referred to the Rules Committee for consideration. But we appreciate, because there's no motion before the House, that the debate cannot continue. I thank you, Speaker.
I thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable Kwakwa from the UDM.
Speaker, we can't accept double standards. Now you are saying all of a sudden the matter is not sub judice. But it was sub judice when you scheduled it in the first place. And we warned you about it even last week in the programming committee as the UDM. We asked for this matter to be scheduled for the period after recess to say to deal with all of these issues, but I was one of the people who said specifically on behalf of the UDM that what needs to happen is that we said a decision had to be taken last week in the programming. Expected to make that decision, you refer it back.
Yes, what is her point of order? Because she's debating now, and the ANC was given an opportunity to speak.
To recognize the ATM. No. Don't think it is correct, honorable members. As a presiding officer, I am presiding on two motions which were put on the table by yourselves, political parties. I don't think it is fair that we should come here being combative and engage in the manner in which we are doing right now. It is unacceptable, honorable members, with due respect. It is unacceptable. I expect all of us to behave in a responsible manner. I have allowed that each party should take a minute to express its views on the matter. I will not accept a situation where honorable members are going to be shouting at one another from their seats. Honorable members, it is to make a plea to all of us, myself included, that it's not going to help us to be combative when we deal with this matter. All that is required is for us to take the floor and you raise the issues in a manner which will be accepted. We are in a chamber. We are in a an assembly of members of parliament. I want to make a plea to all of us, and I'm saying myself, Sergeant at Arms, I hope when I call on you to move, you will do exactly that. That's all, that's what I'm saying now. Honorable members, I now allow ATM to express itself, followed by good.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, there is a case number from the court which clearly shows that there is an ongoing court process on this matter. Now, the fact that on Monday the judge said it is not urgent, does that not mean it is not in the court processes for it to be decided on? The second issue is that there is conflict or disagreement between us as a party and you as a speaker on the method of voting, and that is before the courts. We can't proceed in this motion and vote, whereas the method of voting, it is still subject to judicial review. Lastly, on the question of withdrawing, we made it clear we are not going to withdraw. And we also made it clear, Speaker, to you that last week in the programming committee, I raised this issue and the Deputy Speaker said, let us leave it to you. When I wrote to you on Monday, you said it is a decision that can only be taken by the programming committee. Therefore, because in the programming committee, the Deputy Speaker said the decision is a Zako. When I speak to you, you say the decision is in the programming committee. Therefore, what we move as the ATM, this motion must be postponed pending the finalization of the court processes. Thank you.
Honorable member from Good.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you have made a ruling that the item or the matter is not sub judice in terms of the rules. You've made a ruling that if the proposer is not prepared to table the motion, there is no motion before this House. And we agree with both of those rulings. And those who disagree have remedies themselves. They can take your decisions on review, and we propose that we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Honorable NFP.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I think there's a misinterpretation of sub judice. To now bring it back to the courtroom, you have to do that in a normal course of action. So it does not exist as a matter or an application currently. Now, based on that, Honorable Speaker, it simply means that ATM is not willing to move it today. And I suggest that you proceed further. If they're not willing to do that, their option for that ATM is only one of two, either drop it or alternatively, bring your motion once again when you want to, when you're ready, in consultation with your representatives, your legal representatives, and deal with the matter
mainly for this emotion. So I concur with the speakers to say there is nothing sub judice. Therefore, we don't have any motion in tabled in before the House. We must say there is no motion up until the ATM is willing to bring the motion back. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Shafter. Honorable Madisha from COPE.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. We must address all matters and debates in this Parliament in line with the procedures of Parliament. Back to the committee that deals with the arrangements and say to them, this is what is happening, the matter of sub judice is here, and move from there. I think we need to do that.
Thank you, Honorable Madisha. The Honorable Member of the PAC. Not here. Oh, please. Honorable from the PAC? Okay, not here. Honorable Al-Jama?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this is a shocking development. Parliament rules and not the courts in this instance. The motion is nothing but a political stunt and an attempt to destabilize the House, the Cabinet, and the country and usurp the rights of voters. You cannot expect Al-Jama to support a motion, in this case of the ATM or even the DA. Al-Jama stands with legal services, well thought out legal advice. Al-Jama stands with the Speaker. We don't stand with the legal view of the party whose motion this is. We respect your ruling, Honorable Speaker. We must move on to the next motion. Thank you very much.
I thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Parties having made their comments, I highly appreciate that. Thank you very much, honorable members. I now rule that we are not proceeding on this matter, and the details of what we do next will be dealt with tomorrow at the programming committee. I thank you. Honorable members, I thank you.
Madam Speaker, Honourable President, honourable members. Today from the DA speakers in this debate, you will hear a compelling case for why we cannot afford to persist with a single day more with this cabinet, and why this House must, for once, stand up and be counted. You will hear of the litany of failures of individual ministers, as well as the collective failure of the cabinet as a whole. And fundamental tenet of any democracy, the principle of accountability. This word accountability become safely ensconced in their position. The results of this impunity can be seen everywhere. When oil refineries, manufacturing plants like Bell Equipment and mines shut their doors and take their operations to another country, it's not because there is something inherently wrong with the people of South Africa or the quality of our commodities. It's because our government, this cabinet, has failed to make South Africa a viable place in which to operate a business and to employ people. They have failed to protect lives and property. They have failed to supply electricity and basic services, and they have failed to reform labor and the regulatory legislation. And the result is that our extreme poverty, unemployment, and inequality are now global outliers. And yet, we still persist with this, the largest, most inefficient, and one of the most corrupt cabinets in the world. Now consider this for a second. Brazil has 23 ministries. China has 21 ministries. South Korea has 18 ministries. And Europe's largest economy, Germany, has a cabinet of just 16. But here in South Africa, we have 38 ministries, each with a deputy, and in some instances, 2. And for what? For what? For the sole purpose of rewarding otherwise unemployable cadres with jobs. Not one of those ministers would last a day in the private sector, where accountability and results matter. But in the ANC's sheltered employment scheme, it's happy days forever. Just one big merry-go-round of reshuffles, and when you finally run out of carnival rides, off you go on a nice, cushy diplomatic posting. Absolutely no consequences. Even when a string of reports name your name and list your shames, absolutely no consequences. When the Zondo Commission directly implicates a minister like Gwede Mantashe in corrupt activities, you'd expect him to step down, step aside, or be suspended. But no, here he is in this ANC cabinet. Absolutely no consequences. When the report into the riots and the looting of last July finds that the executive should shoulder some of the blame, elsewhere heads would roll. But in this ANC cabinet, ministers are simply reshuffled or redeployed. Absolutely no consequences. Pay your tax before you talk about weakness. When targets in the president's performance agreement for ministers are missed by a country mile, you'd think there would be strong action, as the president pledged when he signed them in 2019. But not in this ANC cabinet. 3 years after promising us regular evaluations, nothing has happened. Absolutely no consequences. The long-awaited lifestyle audits for ministers, nothing. Action against those mentioned in the high-level panel report into state security, nothing. Repercussions for being linked to Bosasa, digital vibes, and Gupta corruption, nothing. Absolutely no consequences for a single cabinet minister. But there are grave consequences for the tens of millions of South Africans who live below the poverty line or survive on a tiny social grant. The failures of this cabinet wreak havoc in their lives and in the real world, a world that these pampered ministers know absolutely nothing about. In this real world, so did I, and it wasn't a 30% like yours. In this real world, the cost of basic food items far outstrips any severe acute malnutrition. It is simply unforgivable that we have children literally starving to death in South Africa while ministers are picking out luxury vehicles for themselves. The real world is very, very far away from the lavish ministerial vehicle allowances, state-sponsored housing, petrol, and the VIP security detail. But because not one of these ministers has ever been held accountable, they just carry on, wiping out jobs, destroying lives, and then living up in taxpayer money. If our sole mission is to end poverty, and that has to be our mission, we must start by firing the poverty cabinet, because we won't win the war with the same generals who got us into the mess in the first place. South Africa needs a fresh start, and that fresh start starts today with a slimmed-down, fit-for-purpose cabinet who are up to the task. It could be our clean slate. Now, we know the president doesn't have the power or the backbone to move against them, And our constitution and rules of parliament make provision for this eventuality by giving this House the power to do so. So all that is now required is for enough of members of this House to choose to put their country ahead of their party.
Honorable Speaker.
As we head into this winter of discontent, this poverty cabinet is not going to cut it. So support this motion and let's fire this poverty cabinet. Thank you.
Is a point of order. Honorable member, what is the point of order, Letsia? Honorable Letsia?
Yes, Speaker, I wanted to ask Honorable Stainers if he wanted to take a question, but
Order. Honorable member. Order. Honorable the Deputy Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. His Excellency, the Deputy President, I have a choice. Honorable members of the Executive, honorable members of this House, I greet you all. I want to begin my address with the following wise words of the former United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan when he stated the following, and I quote, "I have been a tireless defender of democracy all my life because I am convinced it is the political system most conducive to peace, inclusive development, the rule of law, and respect for human rights, which are pillars of any healthy society." Close quote. Madam Speaker, the architecture of South Africa's democratic state is founded on principles of equality, freedom, and justice. This hard-won democracy was precisely designed to defend the rights and freedoms of the previously oppressed president to choose his own cabinet as an attempt to share the authority and prerogative of the state president to choose his own cabinet. But the African National Congress has a long history of sustained and relentless struggle, having reshaped and repositioned itself through challenging the legitimacy of a people's movement to govern based on the vote and mandate of the people. As we continue to deal with the underlying motives and trickery of a defeated enemy, we contend with an must therefore emphasize, Honorable Speaker, that every effort that the ANC-led government has undertaken since 1994 has been centered around deconstructing the far-reaching impact of South Africa's colonial and apartheid past, which is layered with deeply ingrained structural poverty and inequality. However, our work has been consistently and aggressively met by sustained attempts to decelerate and discredit progress made. It must therefore be asserted that the architects and proponents of South Africa's poverty and inequality are waging a concerted onslaught against our leaders in an effort to keep intact old patterns of social, political, and economic power. We are facing a resistance to transformation. We are facing a resistance against transformation and progress. Albertine and Goldblatt make a poignant assertion on the concept of transformative constitutionality when they articulate that achieving transformation in South Africa will, and I quote, require a complete reconstruction of the state and society, including redistribution of power and resources along egalitarian lines. The challenge of achieving equality within this transformation project involves the eradication of systemic forms of domination and material disadvantage based on race, gender, class, and other grounds of inequality. I therefore wish to put to our nation at large, as well as this august house, that these are the attempts of a defeated foe who are painting a narrative that is crafted for purposes of defending the ill gains of South Africa's colonial and apartheid past. This terrain of struggle hence requires a conscious populace which recognizes that the agents and services where white privilege and white supremacy supersedes equality and transformation. Example, Kayelicha, Guguletu, Philippi, you name them. These are the same people who want to co-govern when they didn't win the national elections. These are the same people who want to co-govern in order to continue to propagate apartheid-inspired systemic and governance interventions under our listening from an oppressive past as we strive to create an equal society that is free of systemic oppression and the cyclical nature of poverty and inequality. This transition has been fluid and has been threatened by various challenges along the way. To this end, the state president has proceeded to institute commission of inquiry precisely for the purposes of testing allegations made against is recognized as an underpinning pillar which must be allowed to run its course. Honorable Speaker, it cannot be us, honorable members of this House, who run a false narrative, who mislead the people umbiko wenhloko yemajaji ubabe Raymond Zondo wende tincomo kuthi labo la kufanele baphenye abaphenye mabaqeda kuphenya nangabe kunebufakazi ebantu mababoshwe bavele enkantolo laba tawubese bayabekwa emacala ngalokusemthethweni babe sebayashushiswa emva kwaloko ke to even say imbeka licala umuntu. So, ngiloko lekufanele kwendeke and ngiloko lekufanele ngoba kunga of speech was severely stifled. Many were detained without fair and just legal processes. When the apartheid system collapsed, those unjust practices collapsed with it. This hard-won democracy demands, as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, that the innocence of the accused must prevail until they have been proven
Honorable Papo is raising a matter of a mask. Who's not wearing a mask here? Okay, Honorable Mawute, please. Number 2, Honorable Kungubele, and Honorable Mandashe. We can hear your entire conversation here. So if you could just
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, the question of corruption is a matter of criminality which requires the law enforcement agencies to act on corruption. Member of cabinet cannot be measured subjectively by a particular party, which is what the sponsors of the motion are trying to do, without the indicators of performance being put to an objective test, measured against what has been produced. The sponsors of this motion, Honorable Speaker, under debate, themselves continue to benefit from the crimes of humanity that were perpetrated by their forefathers, who tortured many for our democratic social order, which must now deconstruct layer by layer. As led by members of the executive who table strategic plans and annual performance plans and quarterly reports is good governance, and our democracy provides the necessary checks and balances, independent institutions, and accountability and transparency required to achieve good governance. The cabinet has and is committed to clean governance and or destructive criticism coming from position. That before them. Their course is founded purely on answers to the chief whip of the opposition. The irony is not lost on me that I stand here to say today to see so many of the people who have been found guilty beyond reasonable doubt by Judge Zondo of being unfit to hold office and who should face criminal charges. This is what is wrong with Parliament, but also with South Africa as a whole. On the rare occasion that Parliament found its teeth and managed to organize an inquiry into state capture of Eskom, we did our job and we uncovered corruption, the scale of which we could never have imagined. And what did the ANC do? Let me tell you, instead of rewarding Ms. Daphne Ranto for sterling leadership, bravery, and patriotism, have a look around and notice that she was done away with. I am here to say what many South Africans want to say and what they want to have done. I am here to say that our cabinet is made up of criminals and people who are completely unfit to govern and should not be in charge of our country.
Point of order, honorable member. Point of order, honorable member. Honorable Khatebe.
No, thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm rising on Rule 84. The members of cabinet are members of parliament.
We're currently debating it. There is no motion. Saying, I am find anybody guilty. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Pando. Honorable Mazzoni. Will you please withdraw the last part of your statement?
I withdraw. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
People are getting poorer and poorer by the day. Unemployment figures rise daily. More and more people are subjected to violence and unspeakable crimes. South Africans have had more than they can take. This is a bad government governed by bad people who coincidentally make very bad statements about Russia and the Ukraine. Parliament went up in smoke and the official opposition does nothing drastic like we do today, the whole country will go up in smoke. Protest actions are happening daily, but ministers are protected at the costs of millions and millions of rands, and that includes you, Honorable Pando, for security. But I think that you are an absolute disgrace. I think that you should be stripped of your posts, and I think that you should be replaced by people who can do the job. We are run like a mafia syndicate, and not me and not a single member of the Democratic Alliance will allow this to carry on. Honorable Pando, you know what the problem is? The jig is up. And Judge Zondo himself said, and I quote after he spoke with Thandi Modise, one of the defining features has emerged in this evidence before the Commission that in order to convert public funds for private benefit, it was necessary to populate key institutions with people. Sorry.
Honorable Mazzoni, there is a point of order.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The speaker on the podium is addressing Minister Pando instead of addressing you as the chairperson of. And then number two, Chair, she just called the Minister of Defense by name. She's not allowed to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khatebe. Honorable Mazzoni.
Funds to private benefit, it was necessary to populate key institutions with people who were going to comply with orders. Shame, shame, shame on you. Our buildings may be destroyed, but we are stronger in our resolve than ever before. South Africa must and always come first. We will stop at nothing to protect this constitution and restore South Africa to the shining beacon that we were promised in 1994. The cabinet must go, and it must go now. The constitution will be protected.
May I address you? Honorable Mazzoni, may I address you? Honorable Thandi Modise is a Minister of Defense and military veterans. Thank you. You may,
He was the speaker when he gave.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable N.V. Mente.
Speaker, over here.
Thank you.
Speaker, we all know we are allowed to heckle, but I feel that Minister
Order. Order, Honorable Minister. Honorable members. They make the kind of noise and heckling which you have just done. I am listening and I'm attending to what the honorable member is raising. And that's what I want to raise here with you. Thank you very much, honorable member. Honorable Zulu, hold on, please. Thank you. Proceed, honorable Mende.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, we must start by clarifying this and making it very clear for South Africans that the DA motion should not in any means possible try to portray Ramaphosa, Mr. Ramaphosa, as a person different failed the majority of the citizens of this country since 1994. All what that is the success of those cases, 0%. Over 6,000 people were murdered. Despite this, there has been no proportionate number of arrests because the capacity of the South African Police Service to do anything has been dramatically eroded. Take Minister Fikile Mbalula. Under his leadership, we have seen our rail transport network decimated beyond recognition. Traffic departments across the country are unable to process driving licenses renewals. Gauteng is still unable to resolve its e-toll nightmare. Roads across the country are littered with potholes. The country's roads are still death traps for thousands on every single year, and taxi violence has become normal in this country. He's not alone though. We've got Mr. Jamnandas. with his golden boy at ESCOM, they have destroyed it beyond its treasury to they does not know who's the partner, was busy buying the ESCOM shares. Denel has been stripped to the bone under the nose of Mr. Jamnandas and his encouragement, motivation to make sure that this country's SOEs go down the drain. One of the worst experiences for any citizen of this country is a visit to Home Affairs, where our people are confronted with most despicable forms of incompetence. Who was busy saying people must stay outside the borders of this country. By the system of the ANC and had their wombs removed, they have never found justice to date. No interest in the cabinet. A woman will go to the police station. They have to find their own way to the shelter. They must still find their own way to go and get a court interdict until they realize that that monster I'm trying to run away from is better than this system and the way it's treating me. Let me go back home. And then tomorrow when that woman today we stand here, Ramaphosa and his cabinet, everyone, hack Freestad.
Honorable Speaker, it is with deep. Can I start again?
Thank you.
Some noise. Honorable Speaker, it is with deep distress that I stand upon this podium to debate the motion currently before the National Assembly. It begs what has become a perennial question. How did we get to this point? Failed statehood of apartheid. It was a perfect storm of insurrection, conspiracy, and socioeconomic distress. This was in no small part fueled not only by the ever-widening chasm of poverty, inequality, and unemployment to which this government seemingly has no answer, but also by the spillover effect of the ruling party's internal factional battles. Through 5 successive presidents, some appointed cabinet ministers have blundered through their respective portfolios. Notwithstanding that there have been successes, these are far outweighed by the litany of ever-compounding failures, the dire effects of which will be felt for decades to come in Africa's most industrialized country. The current president, of which there can be no doubt is a fit and proper person to hold such high office, appears hamstrung by the factions within his own ruling party. And it falls squarely upon his shoulders to take the necessary steps to steer the country back on course. Former President Harry Truman of the United States had a sign on his desk which stated, and I quote, "The buck stops here," close quote, meaning that the president not only makes the decisions, but also accepts ultimate responsibility for those decisions. Honorable Speaker, appointing cabinet members who have no previous professional experience in portfolios can only be a recipe for disaster. Cabinet reshuffles adversely ministers implement take years, decades, I might add. Honorable Speaker, Cabinet serves at the pleasure of the President. Its failure or success is the failure or the success of the President. And through you, Honorable Speaker, Mr. President, the buck has stopped. The responsibility falls upon you. If certain members of your current cabinet are failing in the execution of their duties, replace them. South Africa first, political party second. And Honorable President, we will not support this motion today because we are going to give you the benefit of the doubt. You are the leader. Take the necessary action to ensure that the people of this country benefit from your leadership and put in place cabinet members that would do justice to their respective portfolios. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Singh. Honorable CP Melda.
I still may be here soon when the ANC loses power. The ANC reminds me of a pirate ship. A pirate ship should be small, easy to careen and repair, but with a lot of working space and a large living quarters for the usually large, crowded crew, and a big storage for the ANC to remain afloat. Today, when we vote, it's obvious that some of the members of the cabinet, all of them will have a conflict of interests. They are members of the executive going to vote on their own competence or incompetence. I think that's a problem. If you look at the practical reality of what's happening in South Africa, and if you listen to the ANC, I've listened to the Honorable Tlakude, it seems that all is well and wonderful in South Africa. But everyone that looks at the reality of this country knows exactly the opposite is true. Your failure with regard to economic growth, your failure with regard to job creation, the Honorable Zulu is very vocal, always. But what did she do in terms of small business development in South Africa? That's where she failed. And that is why South Africa is in economic crisis to the detriment of all the people. Look at the collapse of infrastructure, crime, transport. The railroads are being carried away and the stations are being destroyed. But our Minister of Transport is a very happy young man thinking that everything is well. I'm not even talking about many of the other things. Honorable Tlakude said, the ANC won each and every battle. No, you didn't. The battle that really counted, you lost. And but we know as well, you've lost the trust of the people of South Africa, because what is the problem with the ANC? The problem with the ANC is that for the ANC, it's all about staying in power. That's all. That's all. That's all. You have all sworn and the cabinet. The members of the cabinet are surely the leadership of the ANC. The president, unfortunately, has got a huge problem. He can't appoint anybody else because if you look at the rest, there's nothing else to appoint. He's got to use what he's got. Maybe the ANC,
Honorable Fring.
Honorable Speaker, on the 26th of March 2020, a 21-day lockdown was imposed on South Africans with the intention of helping to adequately prepare our healthcare facilities to flatten the curve. It is the belief of the ACDP that during the last 2 years, our constitution, the principles and values that it upholds, was violated. Cabinet ministers were given far-reaching powers, passing government gazettes and usurping the freedoms of South Africans. Simultaneously, the legislative arm of Parliament was bypassed as gazettes were introduced without debate, consent and interrogation by members of Parliament. Worryingly, MPs were unable to execute their constitutional mandate to hold the executive to account, and Cabinet stood by. A private member's bill was tabled by a member of this House to correct this anomaly, but was shot down by the ruling party, and again, Cabinet stood by. Cabinet appears to be power drunk. After 2 years of the national state of disaster, there are attempts to continue with draconian and authoritarian legislation, only this time through the departments of COCTA, Employment and Labor, and Health draft regulations. For 2 years, we have heard cabinet members say, our decisions are informed by science. But when renowned scientists like Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Robert Malone, one of the pioneers of mRNA technology, Dr. Peter Mukala, Dr. Vladimir Zelensko, a doctor to presidents, raised their concerns about the COVID narratives, these scientists are threatened, deplatformed, and discredited. Locally, over 70 South African doctors have written to the Department of Health and SAPRA, raising their concerns about the handling of COVID. and have only received a cold shoulder. More recently, your own scientists, like Professor Shabir Mahdi, Glenda Gray, amongst others, called the new draft regulations an ill-conceived and misdirected attempt to present SARS-CoV-2 infections as there has been an evolution of widespread population immunity against severe COVID-19 and death in South Africa. The recent announcements made to cover up. Cabinet members who know the truth but who choose to remain silent are culpable. The ACDP will speak up against every violation of our constitutional rights, against every violation of the Nuremberg Code, and every scientific inconsistency wherever it is found. We support this motion of no confidence. I thank you.
Honorable General Olomisa.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order.
Order, yes.
The Chief Whip of the majority party has just said that she will vaccinate the Honourable Thring by force. I think that is objectionable, and I would ask you to consider that and make a ruling at an appropriate occasion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
On a point of order, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Thring.
Honourable Speaker, I would like to know whether the threat by the House
Please withdraw, Honourable Member.
Tring. I withdraw, Honourable Speaker. I withdraw. I don't have any need to vaccinate you. I will never vaccinate you, let alone by force. No, I won't.
Take your
Just
seat.
go and vaccinate
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable General.
Baptize you by force.
Honourable General Olomisa. General, you. Oh, okay. Honourable Olomisa.
Institutionalized corruption, makes a laughingstock of our constitutional principles, and it is tantamount to human rights abuse. The evidence from the Zondo Commission shows that the ANC has stolen state resources, which should have been utilized for the social even state intelligence funds were raided. We are, however, waiting for the Commission to tell us how will ANC refund the stolen funds. The
July mayhem of last year in KwaZulu and Gauteng that caused billions in damages and the death of 354 people is, however, most worrying of all. This was ultimately price to be paid for the ANC stated that cabinet must take overall responsibility. The UDM has consulted our legal advisors to establish become another epidemic that we must be concerned about. Here I include lawlessness, hijackings, borders, and vandalism of state resources. West of House, imali ka-Eskom iphume iyelithule House to Chancellor House, imali
Honorable General, your time has expired.
Support the motion.
Thank you, Honorable General.
Thank you.
Honorable Makau. Honorable Makau.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and members of the House. The first point to make is that the fish rots from the head. It is an irrational and political virtuous process to be arguing a rotten body and say nothing about its head. How can that be? Indeed, the cabinet of Mr. Ramaphosa has failed to hold him accountable. He has been
Honorable Makau, I'm sorry.
whose performance agreements were signed in the cabinet that is rudderless itself. Can I continue, Speaker?
Yes, switch off your cameras so that your system can be stable. You may proceed, Honorable Makau.
Thank you very much, Speaker. We are sitting with a directionless cabinet whose performance agreements were signed in the middle of the term, meaning for the first 2 years, we had a cabinet that is rudderless. It the Minister of Octa announcing regulations on the same SARS-CoV-2 that is contained as a notifiable disease in the proposed health regulation. What kind of conclusion is that? It is very clear there is no sender. It's not even a case of the sender is holding. The seat is as good as vacant. The cabinet has allowed President Ramaphosa to destroy the economy and livelihoods of many. 42% of African women are unemployed. Youth aged 15 to 24 and 25 to 34 years old recorded the highest unemployment rates of 66.5% and 43% respectively. Ramaphosa government is destroying the future of our children. A country with expanded rate of unemployment of 46.2% is a country rotten at the very top. This cabinet allowed Mr. Ramaphosa to make misguided statements, making false claims that seeks to absolve the government from its primary responsibility to create jobs. The country is on free fall. Under the misleadership of Mr. Ramaphosa, this cabinet approved spiraling other line item. In the budget of our country. More than education, more than defense, more than social security, more than police, etc. Yet Mr. Ramaphosa is going around the world with a cap in the hand instead of fixing the economy. We are saying in any event,
time has
the
expired.
task team, the entire cabinet must
Your
go.
time has expired.
Thank you. It's quite astounding. Over 10 of them can spend as much as they like. Speaker, political parties, the world over that win elections apply a very complicated set of formula to set up the governments that they lead. And the proposals of this motion are no exception. Competence and loyalty are a key to gauge in a country plagued by so many allegations that are seldom proven in court. And the most qualified economist becomes the Minister of Finance. Why? The right of this president to appoint an executive. It is the
Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, please. Yes, Honorable Kyangi, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is allowed to heckle and interject, but the Honorable Leader of the Opposition is drowning the Speaker. He's having a running commentary whilst the Speaker is on the podium, and it's not done, he knows it.
The Leader of the Opposition really doesn't like to hear that his own executive members are enjoying exactly the same luxuries and exactly the same services that the National Cabinet is, and including your mayoral committee members in Tshwane who are driving in luxury vehicles. So really take the log out of your own eye. Speaker,
I now call Honorable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. What we learn here today is that people who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. Now, Honorable Speaker, I would agree. And those problems and those looting and the corruption is rife. Let us each other here. Level. Political parties are at the throat of each other, wanting to overthrow them, to take control, not to deliver. Because as opposition, we thrive on the weaknesses of those that are in control all over. You've heard somebody condemning the DA a short while ago. Why? Because it's opposition. You don't want solutions, so you thrive on the weaknesses or the faults. Honorable Steer Nation, if you came to me and said,
Speaker, when history books are being written, they will tell a story of a liberation struggle movement that valiantly fought for the freedom of this country. And perhaps more devastatingly, they will tell the story of the same party yabantu. Kuya kuncokolwa ngombutho characters. It has long forgotten the people who elected it to govern and only cares about lining the pockets of the political elite. However, today presents a unique opportunity, not only for members of the opposition who share our view about this cabinet, but for members of the ANC who no longer want to be lampooned with the rotten apples of this bag. I know there are albatross that is its cabinet. You can proudly tell your grandchildren that you voted in favor of the future of our country over your own party political interest. You have an opportunity now to tell them that you abandoned your own perks of office and financial interests. Of the executive have neither the ability hard to pull South Africans out of poverty, who will be unapologetic about choosing policies that will grow our economy and create jobs, and ministers who will care enough, simply care enough about the future of this country. I ask that you put your personal and political interests aside.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable close vote. We also wish to commend the Speaker for scheduling this debate timeously. The Speaker followed the Masluo judgment to the latter. In that judgment, the Constitutional Court said the of the responsible committee or committees of confidence. In the UDM case, the Constitutional Court hammered on the notion of openness as Speaker for the leadership you provided in this regard. Honorable Speaker, coming to the content of the motion against cabinet members, we wish to make it clear that we will vote in favor of the motion only against
After your time has expired.
I rose not once, but 4 times after the State of the Nation addresses and pleaded with the President to reduce his cabinet and deputy ministers. Those of us who are here daily don't his cabinet is bigger than the richest countries of the world. I indicated that if some don't even attend portfolio committee meetings. Money can be given to the poor. It can create jobs. It can help the illiterate and those who are ill. Some of them are also involved in corruption and nepotism. And yet, some of these people you do not even know. But should we be really parting with year, they have
PAC. All right, I now invite Honorable MGE Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we must allow the President to deal with cabinet ministers that do not make the cut and get before Ramadan. Transkai provided the first veterans of the liberation struggle, but are the last to get drinking water. The taps of East London and Port Elizabeth and Kariga are poisoned and people die of poisoning and thirst. Alzama will vote against this motion. There is no way we will vote for a motion sponsored by a party and those that they've and we will respond that we are voting against the motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. I now call upon Honorable X Nola.
Thank you very much, Speaker. The Deputy President, members of the Cabinet and Deputy Ministers, members of the National Assembly, fellow South Africans. Honorable Speaker, the commission itself had to apply to court when it had problems with its witnesses. So it is misleading. Secondly, Speaker, the fact that for small business development. It is too
Speaker, is a very progressive provision of law that is meant to strengthen constitutional democracy. However, we must, as members of this House, always avoid using this provision of law for our selfish and narrow political ends. Of the people, and therefore the people govern. Our people, a reflection of a historical legacy of the structure of a ministers from another positions in the cabinet. Redeployments, which are a prerogative of the president, are based upon needs of the state at any particular point in time, and these needs are not static, but change in accordance to changing conditions that confront government. Contravention of oath of office by any member of the executive is a serious offense. Currently, there is no incidence or evidence in existence to suggest that a member of the executive contravened an oath of office. The cabinet has been at the center of improved intergovernmental relations. In No, you are making noise. You are making noise.
No, but honorable members, please allow be listened to.
Speak. We commend you for declining a spurious and frivolous request by the Democratic Alliance to have cabinet members not participating and voting in the no confidence motion. Members of the cabinet in their majority are by law members of this parliament and therefore will partake fully in its proceedings. This which they were arguing is a voodoo doctrine of separation of powers. The motion itself suffers from a number of flaws. Among all, it is based upon cheap, divisive tactic of attempting to divide the president . Insists that it had no access to the intelligence information. The panel itself also points out that budget constraints were a cause for be taken forward by Parliament. Jumping
invite Honorable L.A. Schreiber. Honorable Schreiber.
Madam Speaker, since the ANC refuses to honestly who must once have had a terrible encounter with a chain-smoking, flip-flop-wearing alcoholic chicken because they used the entire lockdown to settle this vendetta. Similarly, the only war being waged by Defence Minister Modise is against the innocent pigs on her farm. Minister Mantashe. He's the last living member of a species of fossil fuel dinosaur previously thought extinct, and boy is he making it count. He spends his days fighting against renewable energy the pensioners and poor people she's supposed to protect with water cannons. Bad old Minister De Lille hung South Africans out to dry to the tune of 37 million rand on her washing line, and she forgot to open the sprinkler valves that could have prevented Parliament from burning to the ground. Instead of fixing our education system, Minister Bladen Zamande tries to rewrite history to classify Afrikaans as well as Khoisan languages as foreign, while Minister Motshekga is trying speeches during the brief flashes when he's awake in Parliament. Minister Gordhan continues to flush taxpayer money down the SOE drain faster than Tom Moyane flashed Zuma's tax records. And the metaphorical hole in Minister Nkoane Mashobane's once again.
Can you?
aspersions on you see, umpedo nje awufuneka eSouth Africa.
Okay, honorable member.
That was my
Now we are
order
better.
was that the member knows that when he has substantial information, he needs to bring it to the House and not
Point is noted and. Okay, all right. Honorable member, I will check the records and return if it is necessary, but I actually think some of the. Are there any objections?
The cabinet will.
Yes.
Yes.
We winning.
Will you please switch? Cabinet must rise. Platform.
No.
Please mute. Honorable member. Please mute. No. Members, please mute. No.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. I would like to call for a division.
The bells will be rung for 10 minutes. After the bells have rung, all members will be seated here in 10 minutes.